For most of human history, people interacted with each other in one way. We talked to each other, face to face. Today, we have many different ways to interact with each other, and for some of us, face-to-face communication may be the exception, which leads Chicago Booth's Nick Epley to the question, are we missing out on something with these new forms of communication?
And a fundamental question for us as psychologists is, do we really understand the consequences of these different media for how we interact with each other? Do we understand the consequences they have for the inferences that we form about each other and how accurately we communicate with each other? Our data suggests that we don't really fully understand this very well. Is you lose things like the person's voice, and that has consequences for how you judge somebody else. Our experiments suggest that people aren't really aware of those costs. In an online survey, we asked people, if you wanted to be seen as especially intelligent to a potential employer, would you prefer to write an elevator pitch to that employer or speak an elevator pitch to that employer? Most said, in order to be intelligent, the majority, about 75% of people, said that they would rather write than speak. Our data suggests that that's just flat out wrong, that they would be seen as more intelligent if somebody heard what they had to say.
Epley's research has uncovered another mistake people make when considering text-based or voice-based communication: how awkward a spoken conversation will be. In one study, Epley and his co-researchers asked participants to think about a person they had not connected with in a while, and then to plan to reach out and connect with that person either through email or over the phone. Before the subjects actually reached out to their estranged friends, the researchers asked them to predict how the interaction would go.
And what we found was that people expected to feel more connected to the other person. They expected to enjoy their interaction more when they talked than when they typed. They seemed to have some sense that I feel kinship with you. I feel more connected to your mind. I understand you better, at least, when I talk to you than when I type to you in these data. But they also expected the interaction to be much more awkward, significantly more awkward, if they talked to the person than if they typed to the person. When we then asked our participants to say how they would prefer to reconnect to an old friend, you can probably guess the result.
The majority preferred email.
Their sense of how awkward the interaction would be guided their preference, their choice of how they would like to reconnect with this old person.
The researchers randomly assigned the subjects to connect with their friends over the phone or over email. After the interaction, they reported how it went.
They expected that they would feel more connected when they talked than when they typed, and they were right, they did. They felt more connected when they talked to their old friend than when they typed to their old friend. But remember, they also expected that talking would feel significantly more awkward than typing to the other person, and there they were just wrong. In fact, the interactions were no more awkward when they talked to the person than when they typed to the person by their own reports. But that was the very variable that was guiding their choice of how to interact with the other person, what medium they would want to interact with the other person through. Our data suggests that that misunderstanding about how awkward that interaction would be would lead people to choose a less optimal medium for interacting or reconnecting with an old friend. How we interact with other people, the medium through which we connect with other people, has complicated consequences. There are costs and benefits to each method of interacting with somebody else. Social media technology is increasingly moving away from voice-based interactions, increasingly moving to more efficient text-only media of interaction. Our data suggests people don't seem to fully recognize the cost of doing that. And I worry a little bit that these kinds of costs are not the kinds of costs that we're going to come to recognize as we get to use this technology more. It's not necessarily going to become more obvious to us over time, because it takes a long time to recognize these effects in daily life.
It's an incredible convenience to be able to connect with others around the world with the click of a button. But Epley's research suggests we also have to be aware of what we give up when we choose to communicate with anything other than our voice.